What's up, everyone? It's Eric from Option Edge, and today I want to talk about what might possibly be the mother of all option strategy, the king of our option strategies, and that is the cash secured put, the short put, writing a put. All that stuff is synonymous with selling a put, basically, or a naked put. Okay, so real quick recap. Buying a call, we want the stock to go higher. Buying a put, we want the stock to go lower. Then when you're selling a call, you want the stock to go lower or stay at the same price. And when selling a put, you want the stock to go higher or stay at the same price. Just something to keep in mind, because people sometimes, when they're learning options, they first start by learning, hey, what happens when we buy a call? And then from there, we sort of build out the rest of the strategies. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. So we're shorting a put. This is actually a bullish strategy, bullish to neutral strategy, meaning if the stock goes up, we do well. If the stock doesn't move at all, we do well. If the stock starts to move down, we start to lose. But overall, this has a positive delta, meaning that the directional exposure is, we want it to go towards the upside. So our directional exposure is positive. Okay, so let's get into it. So we have our put writer, put seller here, and then we have our put buyer. This just goes to show you that for every time you buy or sell contracts in the options market, there is a buyer and there is a seller. So in this case, we have a writer or seller. That's going to be us. The writer agrees, when writing a put, the writer agrees to buy the underlying stock at the strike price if the contract is exercised. So what's going to happen here is we are going to sell a put, and in exchange for that put, we get money from the buyer. The buyer buys the put, and we're going to use, let's say, for $3, and it's going to give that to us. So what's going to happen is we will keep that premium. We're going to keep that premium, but if the stock goes below the strike price of the put option, then we're going to be forced to buy 100 shares of that contract. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. So just some more information. The put buyer buys to open. If you ever bought a call, that's the same thing. You buy to open when you buy a call. Okay, same thing with a put. And the seller is selling to open. Okay, just some things to keep in mind. So the put seller receives a credit from the put buyer. Okay, so the put buyer is going to give the put seller a credit. In exchange for that credit, the put buyer now has the right but not the obligation to sell 100 shares of the underlying stock at a predetermined price at or before the contract's expiration. Okay, so that's a little long-winded and it could be confusing. So the best way to learn about this is through examples, which we're going to get into shortly. So once again, this is a little animation describing what I just said. We have the put seller writes the contract, and then we have a buyer who says, hey, I'm willing to give you money for that contract. And we agree at a price and say, all right, let's do it. And so you get the put buyer buys his put, so he's now in possession of that put, and now the seller is now in possession of the premium. Okay, so what is remember, the put buyer now for that money gets the right but not the obligation to sell 100 shares of the underlying stock at a predetermined price at or before the contract's expiration, and then we as the seller get the credit. Okay, the put seller receives a credit from the buyer. Okay, so let's go on. So in addition to all this, something to keep in mind, as the seller of a put option, we are obligated to buy 100 shares of the underlying stock if upon expiration the stock is below the strike price of the put we sold. Okay, so your brokerage, whether it's Robinhood, Tastytrade, E-Trade, is going to require you to set aside collateral. So if we are selling a $30 strike in any company, doesn't matter what company, we are going to, no matter what, have to set aside $3,000. Why? Because if we're going to be buying 100 shares and the strike is at $30, we're going to have to buy $3,000 worth. So 100 shares times 30 equals 3,000. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. All right, so here's an example. Let's get into the nitty gritty here. So we have a stock, let's call it XYZ, selling at $75. Okay, we're going to be the put sellers in this scenario. We're going to be selling the $70 strike, and in return for selling that, a put buyer is going to buy it for $3. Okay, so we're getting a credit of $3. So let's look at the P&L graph. So what we want to happen here is we want the stock to stay at 70 or above. Okay, if that happens, what basically happens is, well, what does happen is this option will expire worthless. We'll keep the credit. Okay, we always keep the credit, but the $3,000 of collateral will be released after that, and we can then use that money to do whatever we want. Okay, so the next question is, based on this, if we receive a credit for $3 and we start to lose money, so once the put option drops below, once the stock price drops below 70, and if it stays there upon expiration, so if it gets to, let's say, 60, right, we will owe the difference between the strikes. We'll lose the difference between the strikes, okay, because we are buying the option at $70, and if it goes to 60, well, heck, we bought an option, or we bought stock, 100 shares, and that stock's only worth $60 a share, and we bought it for $70 a share. So what's the difference between 100 shares of stock that we bought for $70 a share minus the 100 shares of stock that's currently trading at $60 a share? Well, that's $1,000, okay? But you have to take into account that we actually received a $3 credit. So what really happens is, if the stock went down to 60, we would actually only lose $700 in that scenario because we receive a credit, okay? And I'm asking here, what is the break-even price? So if we're selling the $70 strike, we receive a $3 credit. When do we lose money? Okay, so the profit and loss diagram basically shows you. So we don't lose money until the stock goes below 67, because what's going to happen is we will be forced to buy 100 shares for $70 a share. So it's going to cost $7,000 to buy, okay, when the stock is trading at 67, when the stock is trading at $67 a share. So what is the difference between 7,000 minus 67 times 100? That's going to be 300. But remember, we received a $3 credit. So that is going to cancel the $300 that we're down, okay? Hope that makes sense. We'll keep going, okay? We'll keep going. And so I talked about this already a little bit. So the best case scenario is, when we're selling puts, is the $70 strike. The stock never goes below the $70 strike, or it can go below the $70 strike, but as long as at expiration we are out of the money, meaning that it's above the $70 strike, we will collect all that whole $300 premium. I mean, we're always going to collect that whole $300 premium, no matter what, whether we get assigned the stock or it expires out of the money. But the difference is what happens to our collateral. So if it stays out of the money, stays above the $70 strike, we never have to, we're never forced to buy the 100 shares of stock, okay? And then $7,000 of collateral will get released, okay? So, and then in addition, just another scenario, the stock can stay exactly at $70, and at expiration, if the stock is right at $70, we will still receive, we will not have to, we'll still, all of our collateral will be released, okay? So, this is another thought experiment here. At what price do I lose $200? Okay, so if I'm selling the $70 strike, I receive a $3 credit, and my break even is $67. At what stock price do I lose $2, really $200? So let's think here. If the stock, if it moves down to $65, 70 minus 65 is 500. Okay. So if we are forced to buy, if the stock upon expiration is at $65 and we're forced to buy 100 shares at $70 a share, we've lost $500. Okay. But then you take into account that we received a $3 credit. So that means 500 minus 3, or 300, because we're doing 3 times 100. So then that means we've lost $200. Okay. Moving on. So the answer to that is $65 is when we lose $200. Okay, or $2 in options lingo. All right. If the stock price is at $80 at expiration, how much money do I make? I mean, how much money do I make? So think about that. The answer is the same amount of money you would make if the stock expired on the $70 strike. Okay. We received the full credit and all of our collateral is released. Okay. So that's what when I talk about this is a neutral to bullish strategy. If the stock doesn't even move, we make money. Okay. So just something to think about. So the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case scenario, we talked about basically once we get below our break-even point, now we're losing money. Okay. So if the worst case scenario would be if the stock somehow crashed to zero, we're forced to buy at $70 a share, a stock that's worthless. That would mean we lost $7,000 minus the credit we received. So it'd be $6,700 we would lose. Okay. So hopefully this doesn't happen. Yeah. So a not so worst case, a sort of, we start, let's say going back to the $65 example. It's not the worst case. It's not the end of the world if we get a signed stock and we lose money. Okay. Because what we did is so basically, if you're bullish on this stock, you can hold it and the stock can increase in value in the future. Okay. So it's not the end of the world if you are assigned 100 shares of stock. The stock is an asset and it can appreciate in value. And let's say what happens is the stock goes to $65 and at expiration you lose $200, but then a week later the stock goes to $75. Well, heck, you received a $3 credit for a stock that is now at $75, and it was like buying it for $67 based on that credit you received. So you've made money. Okay. And that's sort of what I'm talking about here. So it's a form of reducing your cost to buy the stock. So in a way, you can look at your favorite company. Let's say, what do we got here? Yeah, I'm going to show you a company that I'm looking at that I want to hold their stock long term. Okay, I can look at the company and then say, hey, I want to own the stock at this price and get paid to do that. Okay. So you don't have to let the market dictate what price you'll pay for an awesome company. You can name your own price instead and get paid to wait for the stock to dip to that level. And this is going to reduce your cost basis. Okay. So here's an example. I have a current stock that I am looking to buy 100 shares in. Okay. I am subscribed to a stock picking service, and this stock picking service basically said buy NTNX at a little bit over $40 a share. Okay. So since that happened, the stock is now trading at $43 a share. Okay. So what I can do is, one, I could either say, hey, I'll buy 100 shares of NTNX at $43 a share, and that's that. Okay. Or I could do this. I could sell the $45 strike put that expires in 4 months. This expires in January. Okay. I'm going to lock in a price per share of $45 if upon expiration, the stock is trading lower than $45, okay? But remember, I receive a credit, and the credit I will receive for this is going to be $5.60, okay? So let's say I get assigned stock, but no matter where the stock is when I get assigned, my cost per share is going to be below $40, okay? So I just got in a great company that a decent stock picking service said, hey, get in at $40. Well, I'm going to be able to get in below $40, okay, by using this strategy, okay? So the total cost for purchasing the 100 shares, instead of being $4,500 total cost is going to be $3,940, okay? So you can see how this is in a way, a better strategy than just buying the stock. The only downside is if the stock, while you're waiting to get assigned shares, if the stock goes on a major tear to the upside, makes a big run. So if the stock is trading at 40 one day and then it doubles, goes to 80, well, since you didn't own any stock, you didn't own 100 shares, you're not going to really get all that price appreciation. You just get the credit received. So that's sort of the downside that's the only downside of the short credit spread, short put spread strategy. Okay. And here's just an illustration of, let's go back. So you can see this is the stock's currently trading around $43 a share. I sold the January 21st put for, looks like my credit was $5.60. So you're going to take that, you're going to take your strike and you're going to subtract the credit received, and that's going to give you your break-even price, or basically the price per share I'm going to pay per 100 shares, okay? So I'm okay with getting in just under $40, okay? So that's a good example. The other thing we have to know is what buying to close means, okay? So I'm going to use this example in HIMS, okay? So let's go over. I'm going to pause this. All right, I'm actually using not HIMS. I'm using a company called Curiosity Stream, which I actually sold a put recently in Curiosity Stream. So I sold the $10 put, and I received a $50 debit, okay, or excuse me, credit. So what's going to happen is right now it's trading at $70. If I was to close this out, I would have to buy it back. I would have to buy this contract back to close, okay? But what's going to happen is I'm going to lose $20. So you can see I'm going to lose $20. If you're shorting something and it goes up in value, that's how you lose money. So when you buy something, you want it to increase in value, okay? Because you're buying low and then selling high. When you're shorting something, you want it to decrease in value because you're selling high and then buying back low. So give me a sec. I'm sort of jumping ahead here, but so I'm just showing you that if I buy this back, I'm going to lose $20, okay? Because the contract is now worth more than what I sold it for. So that's a loss. Okay, hold on. All right, so now we're to use a different, I'll show you another put that I've done in another company. I think it's Big Commerce. All right, Big Commerce. So I sold $40 put here, okay? So I sold this $40 put. I sold it I received a credit of $1.65, okay? Since then, the put has gone down in value by only $7, okay? So if I want to, right now, I could close this. Watch. Let's go to the option chain. That was the, let's go back. So this is, if I wanted to, I could, give me a sec here. Let's go here. We want to buy to close. So if I wanted to, boom, I could buy, and this is going to close, okay? It doesn't show you, but it's going to close, and I'll make the difference of $7, okay? So that's sort of buying to close. And then another thing, going back to the CURI example, if I wanted to, let's go back to CURI. If it moves against you like it did here, where I'm now down money, down, let's go to our put here. Oh, excuse me. I'm down $20. So if I wanted to, I could close this trade. So I'm gonna have to buy it for a debit of 70. So then I would lose $20, but then I could do this. I could then take the put and then roll it, what's called down and out. So I was selling the $10 spread. I can now, we're going to roll it down for here. Okay. Roll it down and out. So we've now rolled it out into February. We would receive a credit of 35 cents. So what's going to happen is if, as long as the stock stays above the 7.5 mark, what's going to happen is we'll receive that full credit, and we lost the $20, but then this credit would make up for it. So that's just a brief example of how to roll out your position if you're in trouble. This isn't the best example because 7.5 really does this 35 cents really isn't a lot of premium, but technically, if we went through with this and we lost $20 on that other trade and did this, we could then, like I said, roll it down. So we'll lower the strike price. So that gives us higher odds of being of making money. And not only do I roll it down, I roll it out. So we rolled it out in time to February. Okay. So that's just something to keep in mind. The second to last thing. In many ways, you can think of selling a put as also like setting a limit order. Okay, basically, you have a price you want to get in a particular company. Let's say Apple. Okay, Apple I think is trading at 147 a share, around that. So sell a put with the strike price at a price target you'd love to get in. So, like I said, Apple's charging is currently at like $145. Let's say I wanted to get in at Apple at 120. Okay, so what I can do is I can sell a put right now. Let's go down to Apple. All right, so it's 147 a share. Let's trade options. We want to get in an Apple at, we're just going to randomly say, let's say like 60 days from now, slightly less. I want to sell a put. Let's say I want to get in at this company at about, I think it's fairly priced at 130. Okay, so this is only the 15 delta. So what's going to happen here is I'll receive this credit. Okay, and as long as Apple never touches this $30 mark, I'll keep receiving this credit, and I can just keep opening this trade up. But if Apple happened to dip down below this $30 mark and become in the money upon expiration, we would be forced to buy 100 shares at $130 for a total of $13,000. Okay, so yeah, you can think of it as like a limit order, right? And you're getting paid to hold that limit order. So last but not least, here's my pro tip. The higher the implied volatility of the underlying stock, when you sell a put, the more option premium you will be able to receive for a credit. Okay, so you'll see when you look at the trading, when you look at like software, for example, I'm looking at, this is HIMS. For if I buy a put at the 7.5 mark, I'll get paid about, it doesn't say here. This is a different expiration cycle, but let's look at Robinhood. Never mind, we're still on this account. So basically what we have here is we're on Tastyworks, and they show the stock's implied volatility by using IVR, which is implied volatility rank, which just ranks it. it just shows you how high the volatility of a particular stock is based on where it's been in the past year. So anyway, HIMS has decently high implied volatility. So by selling an options contract, a short put naked, I will receive more money because than usual than if this stock was in a low implied volatility type place or environment. So, but since there is high implied volatility here, I will receive a higher credit. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. So I haven't really gone into why this strategy is so great. And the reason why it is because if you use this, if you sell puts in stocks you want to buy and hold, you can, one, reduce your cost-based strategy. And well, really, that's the main thing. You can reduce your cost-based strategy, but if let's say, going back to the $75, $70 strike example that we were talking about, if you really like that company, and if it goes down and you get assigned shares, you receive a credit, and then you reduce your cost basis for those 100 shares. And you can keep doing that quite a lot. So that's one of the reasons why the put option is so good. The other reason is if you do get assigned shares on your cash secured put, what you can then do is immediately flip to selling covered calls. Okay, so you can receive premium from the upside as well, as long as the stock doesn't go up too high. Then the other strategy is if you get 100 shares of, or if you sell a put in a company that you like, you can also get 100 shares at a reduced value, which I showed you with NTNX, right? Wherever that is, right here. So this is the other strategy. And then last but not least, the market as a whole tends to really only go up. So it's like easier to short puts because it's got bullish bias, right? Yeah, I think that's it for the most part. This was a little bit longer today. I hope you learned something. If you like this stuff, please like and subscribe. And as always, this is not medical advice or anything. Excuse me, financial advice or anything like that. Well, yep. All right, that's it. Take care. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.